Okay, well, the F4 video. Our goal for today is that if I'm given a graph, so if I have a graph to start with, can I look at that graph and then write the function for it? One thing that you really need to know and understand is that what you do in math, really it's the biggest pattern in math. What you do in math, what we do forwards, we're really going to try and do backwards. Alright, so the F3 video was all about graphing using slopes and y-intercepts. Now we're going to take a graph and write the function. And so the big key here is using those two big characteristics. So when you start off with a graph, right, the first thing you want to look for, so what to look for? The first thing you want to look for is that y-intercept. Alright, so this is going to give us that b value that we need. Right? Remember, all of these linear functions are in the form of f of x equals mx plus b. So find the y-intercept first, and that's going to tell us the b value. Then we need to look for the slope. So the first thing we're going to look for is that y-intercept. The second thing we're going to look for is the slope. And here, I want to make sure, as we find that slope, there's a couple of little tricks that we need to pay attention to. So that first trick that we're going to look for is clearly, no, I don't want to use that word. This word, here we go. Obvious points, and we need two of those obvious points. And we want to count left to right. It's important that we go left to right. This ensures that we get positive and negatives correct. Okay, so we want to make sure that there's two obvious points and we're counting from left to right. And I'm going to go over that here in just a moment. Now again, that slope is going to give us that m value that we need. Alright, so let's take a look at our very first example. Alright, so we want to write the function for this graph. Okay, well, I want to start off and I want to find my b value. My b value here is right here at this point. And this is the point 0, 1. And since I'm at a positive 1 on the y-axis, my b value is going to be a positive 1. And now, I want to find 2 points on here that are really obvious. Well, here's a point that's really obvious. What I mean by really obvious is that it crosses right on the crosshairs. It is definitely going to be at that point. Another one we might be able to find would be this guy right here. Seems to be like another pretty obvious point. You don't want to use something like this. See how it has like that little nook here, or this point here? It is clearly not going to be on the crosshairs. So these are the points that you do not want to use. So again, make sure that it's an obvious point that you're picking. And I'm going to use this one right here just because I know for sure it crosses through that point. So here are my 2 points, and I've highlighted my 2 points. Now, that second trick that I said about counting slope is that we want to go from left to right. So I'm going to start with this point, and I'm going to work my way towards this point. And I need to start with my rise, right? Remember that slope is rise over run. So I need to figure out that I go up. If I'm going to go from this point to this point, did I go up or down? And clearly I went down. So my slope is going to be negative. All right, here's my fraction that I'm working on. So I know my slope is going to be negative. So how far down did I have to go from this point to this point? I had to go 1, 2 down. So 2 would be my rise. Negative 2 would be my rise here. And now how far did I have to run? Well, starting with this point, how far to the right did I have to go? So I'm going to count them out. 1, 2, 3. So I had to go 3. Once I've checked my slope, so note, once I find slope, I need to ask myself, can I reduce? So if I had counted from here to here, it would have been down 4, and to the right 6. Right? And we know that negative 4 over 6 turns into negative 2 over 3. So can I reduce would be the big question. If you have two even numbers, at least divide them by 2. At least divide even numbers by 2. Alright, so now we know the m value and we know the b value. I'm ready to write my function. So f of x equals, and it's mx plus b. So m in this instance is negative 2/3. So negative 2/3 x plus my b value here is 1. And note, as I'm writing negative 2/3 x, I write negative 2/3, and it's obvious that the x is being multiplied by the negative 2/3. Here's what I don't want to see. Okay, I do not want to see, f of x equals negative 2, that. Here, this is a completely different function. The x is all the way down here in the denominator. This is a no-go, okay? So make sure that when you're writing your fractions, when that x, it's either up top or clearly off to the side, so clearly to the right of the negative 2/3. And it's obvious that we're going to be multiplying the negative 2/3 and x. Okay, let's try this next example and see what we do. See how we do. Alright, so again, we want to start with our b value. So my b value here, I'm looking at the y-axis. Where does it cross the y-axis? And I'm at, it looks like negative 2. So starting at 0, I go down 2, so that tells me my b value here is negative 2. And now I want to count my slope. So 2 points going left to right. It was really nice of them to leave these 2 dots here for us. So I'm going to go left to right, so I'm going to start from here and I'm going to end up here. So did I go up or down? Well, I went up. So I know that my slope then is going to be positive. And I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. I went up 5 units. And then I ran, so my run is to the right 1 unit. So 5 over 1. Now I found my slope. Can I reduce? Well, 5 divided by 1 is really simply 5. So now I could tell that my function f of x is going to equal 5x minus 2. Since b was negative 2, I'm going to go with minus 2. Some people are going to write this as f of x equals 5x plus negative 2. This just looks like a whole lot. It looks a little bit confusing. So anytime we add negatives, just simply subtract, please. So this here would be the answer I'm looking for.